Hi, and welcome back to the HSP Connection with me, Robbie Lee.
And me, Philippa Robinson. This is where we share our stories, insights, and strategies to help fellow highly sensitive people navigate their own path to living a fulfilling and meaningful life.
We're on a mission to reclaim the word sensitive and help the world see the strength in sensitivity. Philippa, my friend, what are we talking about today?
Before we start, I've got something to tell you.
Okay, what you got?
Well, so, I know we've only just had a really great trip to Canada in the summer, really big family trip. Well, I've booked another holiday.
You booked another holiday?
Yeah. And I've not told anybody here at home yet. But yeah, we're going away for Christmas.
For Christmas?
Yeah, we've never been away for Christmas before. So I've booked it and we're going, we're going away for 3 weeks.
3 weeks in Christmas. When are you going to be leaving?
Well, we're going in the middle of December and we're going to be back just after New Year. So yeah, I'm going to have all that time off and just a lovely big rest again. It's going to be amazing.
Right. A big rest for you. I guess that means I need to be doing some extra work around the holidays.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I hadn't really thought this through, had I? Are you cross?
I'm not cross. I guess it must be nice to have all that extra disposable income and time. I can't keep doing this.
I know. Thanks. It took us 3 times to record this. What we wanted. Hello, everybody.
Hi. Today, for real.
Hello, for real. We had to do that this way so that we could actually get through it. But we wanted to demonstrate to you that today what we've come to talk about is the super juicy topics of jealousy and envy.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was my idea to do a little role play at the beginning. So, we're not going to be giving up our day jobs anytime soon. But that was really interesting, like watching your face and seeing your reaction to that. And
it was hard because I was trying to channel, okay, if I really was upset about this, because first of all, you're not going anywhere. And secondly, I would celebrate you if you were. So, maybe you are.
No, but, I'm not. I'm joking.
So, but I was really trying to channel, how would it feel if you, anyway, if that was real. So I was trying.
You were doing really well. I was almost believing it.
Okay.
Yeah. So we wanted to talk about jealousy and envy. And I keep lumping the two together there. Can you just talk us through the difference between the two, Robbie?
Well, I'll do my best because I was uncertain what the difference was. So I looked it up online. And here's what I'm getting out of it. They're very similar. And I mean, they both have to do with having negative feelings about something, like because you're desiring something. The key difference that I could see is with jealousy, like, so in the instance we just did, if I was jealous of you, I would be upset with you about going on vacation. If I was envious, it would be more like, oh, it's not necessarily mad at you at all. It's just like, oh, wow, that's cool. And I wish that I could go on vacation. So the jealousy bit is generally a little bit more upset with the human. It's about the human. The jealous is the human part, the human being. The envy is more the thing.
So is jealousy stronger, for want of a better description, maybe?
I don't know.
Okay.
Answer to that.
But
I didn't dive too deep.
Okay. So we've got jealousy and envy, and perhaps the distinction. I think I probably might use them interchangeably. I don't know.
Most people do. Yeah.
I'm not really aware of when I use those words. I think I use envy more than, like, I think I'd be more inclined to say, oh, I'm envious rather than I'm jealous. But actually, that doesn't sound right. I think maybe I use both those.
jealous a lot. I think that's kind of the go-to word when maybe sometimes we mean envy. But so for the purposes of this podcast, why don't we say they were mostly using them synonymously to mean something that, we wish we had.
Yes.
And yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
And the reason for wanting to talk about them is because I think, I was listening to a podcast, as I do a lot, and the people on there were talking about jealousy. And I think a lot of us feel, let's just use the word jealousy maybe, or wherever we use them interchangeably to mean sort of the same sort of thing. So I think a lot of us experience jealousy in our lives, and as you rightly pointed out, I think jealousy can manifest itself as feelings, difficult feelings towards the person who is telling us about whatever it is they've got, that they've done, where they've been, what they're going to get, all of those things. So we can feel very strong feelings around what they've told us, but the feelings are towards that person. And we can direct those feelings really quite strongly towards that person and make it out that person is sort of wrong in some way, or we might say things like, well, got another holiday already, or they've got more, do they really need more stuff, or I wanted that and they've gone and got it, or whatever it is. I mean, it can manifest itself in so many ways, but we want to look at it from a different point of view, don't we?
Yeah. And that's why I was excited to talk about it, because you're right. I think it's a really common human emotion.
Yeah.
And like you said, it comes out often as kind of making the person wrong.
Yeah.
Just like, they've done something wrong. But really what I'm excited to talk about is using jealousy and envy as flags to ourselves to turn inward and say, oh, well, what is it that I'm really wanting? Yes. Like use them as these little warning system or detection, or, just like a flag to say, hey, this is a signal that there's something inside of you that you're wanting.
Yeah, exactly. Spot on. And like in our little role play, you started to actually play that out because you were saying things like, oh, it must be nice to have the money to do that, or it must be nice to have the time. And you also said, and I suppose I'm going to have to do more work then because you're not here.
Yeah.
And
that's exactly right.
So those are aimed at me in that little scenario. But actually, what is going on for you, really, underneath it all?
You're exactly right. Those were jabs fired at you, but really, the character me it was like, oh, I wish I had more money, time, freedom, right? And somehow permission. I wish I could go on a holiday was really what the thing was, right?
Yeah.
And so, or in America, we say vacation. Wish I could go on vacation. So if I could use this as a doorway to find that out about myself without making you wrong for living your life, right? Then I could then say, okay, oh, I want to go on vacation. Okay. So then what's stopping that from happening? And then you can start deep diving that, right? Is it a money thing, or is it a perceived money thing? Is it just, let's reallocate something? Is it a time thing, or is it like you can really dig into it and find out, well, this is the thing I've identified I want. So how do I make it happen for me now? Who can I, do I need to get with my spouse, Brady, and be like, hey, let's take a vacation. Let's prioritize a vacation in 2024. How do we make that happen? Like, then we can start moving toward getting the thing we want, right? Instead of just making other people wrong for having the things that we want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because me going on vacation doesn't stop you going on vacation.
No.
you know, so if I don't know, I'm jealous because my neighbour's got a new car, so for instance, you know, them having a new car doesn't stop me having a new car. There's more than one new car in Bristol, you know, so
Absolutely.
you know, but it's about it's about my perception around that new car. So am I stopping, you know, can I afford to have a new car if I wanted to? Am I not giving myself permission to do that? Am I giving all my time, attention, money, energy somewhere else so that I don't have the, in this case, money to buy a new car? There are lots of things that come up in that, and also my money story, my you know, my stories from childhood. You know, I grew up in a family where you never had a new car, you know, and no, it's ridiculous buying a new car. You know, you should always buy a car at 3 years old and sell it at 5. That's the least depreciation. That's the family I grew up in. And you know, some of that sticks, some of that doesn't. And I just use a car as an example. But there is so much more to it than just the simple on the surface that we will see initially. But how often do we dig into that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And as you were talking, I thought, oh, it's, to me, it's the lens of I'm a victim here. Like I'm being victimized, right, by you going on vacation, which isn't even true, but right. Yeah. But that's the initial lens. It's just like, oh, something bad has happened to me. Versus when I'm looking at what I really want and then coming up with a plan for that, then I feel empowered. Right. And it's like, okay, well, I can then prioritize the things that really matter to me and spend my resources accordingly, my time and my energy and my money. Like, and it might not be that I can go on vacation at this year at Christmas or even next year at Christmas, but maybe I can plan 2 years out. Like, you know, it's that difference of the world is happening to me and I am a victim of it versus, okay, what do I want to create for myself? And what are some steps to do that?
Yeah, and that's a massive shift, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, you know, you hit the nail right on the head there by saying it's about prioritizing what you need and want. And, you know, wants are okay. You don't have to absolutely need something to prioritize it. You know, it's completely okay to prioritize what you want. You know, we are here in life to experience as much joy as we can. That is really our job. So having what we want is completely okay. Please have more of what you want. But of course, we all have to do that within the realms of what is possible for us. And, you know, be that from a money, a time, a energy, all those other different points of view. And I love the way you language that, Robbie, about actually it can put us in quite a victim, you know, frame of mind that, oh, I never have what I want. I can't have what I want. This never happens to me. You know, all of those sorts of stories that, you know, gosh, you know, I'm really familiar with. I'm sure you are.
Yeah, of course.
But what our reaction to these sort of situations is really telling us, it's really giving us information about what is important to us.
That's right. It's 100% right. And I had a thought and it just popped right back out of my head. So
as we do. So when we just before we started recording, I was, you know, just thinking about when are the times in my life that I've been jealous. And I, for many, many, many years, especially when I was growing up, I was always jealous of my perception of other people's family life. Always. And I turned that back on myself, that I didn't, deserve a better family, if only I were a nicer child, a better child, a more lovely child, whatever, then maybe I would have the family that I wanted. And that was really painful then. But now I can definitely see that what it was is that I knew deep in my core what I wanted, what I needed, and that I wasn't getting. And that's very much why I looked at other people's families with such deep longing that really was jealousy.
Yeah.
I wasn't, and actually maybe just going back to your little definition at the beginning, but it doesn't really matter. Maybe it was more envy because I didn't begrudge them their happy family. Mm. And I didn't hate or feel badly towards them for their happy family. I just wanted some of that for myself.
I mean, of course you did.
Of course I did.
Of course you did. Yes. Oh.
Do you have any sort of examples of where you felt like this that you can share with us?
I have never felt jealous a day in my life. No,
oh, really?
Yeah. I am one of these superhuman people that have never experienced jealousy. No, of course. I'll say, a more recent one, as I have been building my business, I have found, and you languaged it so well about, it's like your perception of someone else's family. So my perception of someone else's business, right? Mm-hmm, and how well it's going and how successful they are and what their timeline was versus mine. Those feelings can come up of, man, I wish I was having that success.
Yeah.
And it has really challenged me to look at how do I actually define success? And because what I found was I was still doing a lot of definitions that were just kind of handed to me, but weren't really mine. And so it's been actually a fun process to dig into and go, well, one of the things I count as a big success for me is I don't have a back-to-back schedule. I get breathing room throughout my day, which actually makes me way better at my job and a way better human. Like I just need that spaciousness and I have it now. That is success for me. So that's just one example. But yeah, I mean, jealousy, gosh, it's tied to that comparison, which we've talked about before, right?
Right. Yeah.
I remember as a kid, the thing I was jealous about a lot was, I'm trying to think of the words to say it. It was like, I grew up in an area where there were a lot of very wealthy people. My family was not wealthy. And so I was surrounded by all this like name brand this and all these big toys and feeling like I was missing out somehow, like I was less than for not having that. Even though, and this is an example again of like, it seems like some other external thing just attached itself to me because as an adult with means, I didn't go after those things. Like those really aren't the things that I care about, but as a kid, I guess it just felt like I was different and left out. And so then less than, yeah. It's interesting. Like when you start digging around, I'm like, oh, I'm sure I could come up with a lot of different things.
It really is. Yeah. You're absolutely right. And, I can see how that feeling you were just describing there as a child and surrounded by all these people or kids who seem to have so much, how that is jealousy. But is there something underneath that? And there is comparison, I think, like you say, and almost some sort of, I don't know, these are my words and this is what I'm feeling. Tell me if I'm wrong, but is there any element of I'm not as good as them?
Yeah, that was 100% what it was. I wanted to feel like I belonged and that I was good enough to belong with them.
Yeah. Yep. And as you're saying that, that's also tying in with what you said earlier, and I loved that. That's where you went when you were talking about success.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think success is tied in with comparison and how we
100%.
judge success.
Yep.
And, maybe as a child, you can sort of see how that's a sort of, they're more of a success than me. It's not the word language that we would use, but it's the same sort of energy there, isn't it?
100%.
That then becomes, how are we a success as we get older? And in the business mastermind that I'm in, we had a really juicy conversation about what success means for us. And I think if I'd had that conversation, I don't know, 10 years ago, 10 years ago, where was I then? Yeah, I mean, I suppose, this is where I come to a bit of my story where I'm like, yeah, I suppose I looked like I was making a success of life. I had the career, husband, kids, and but it didn't feel like a success at the time. But I know sort of, arguably it looked like a success, and I felt like I perhaps I did feel like I should have felt a lot happier than I did, because I ticked all those boxes. But what does success feel like now? Well, now I earn nowhere near as much money as I used to do, and I'm so much more happier. It's funny, the amount of money has gone down and the happiness has gone up. And I know, I think there's been a lot of research that there's a certain level of money that we sort of all need, and it's nowhere near as high as we think it is. But, we all need to know that we've got shelter that is not going to be taken away from us. We've got food on the table. We've got clothes. We're okay.
Yeah.
But above that threshold, the amount of, even though the amount of money might go up, the amount of happiness does not go up at the same rate.
That's right.
And I'm talking about money here because I definitely come from a family that has a money story of money is good. Like we are good people. I'm not sure good's the right word, but we are successful people because we have money. And that's how the sort of environment I grew up in. But in that environment, money was used to control people. If you towed the line, you got money, and if you didn't get money. And so my money story, which I am definitely working on, is that money is not really that great. And people who have a lot of, actually, it's not, money's not great. And money is just like it's a construct,
like a placeholder.
Exactly. It's not real. It's not anything real. But the idea of money absorbs a lot of us. And I suppose it's only right that in a episode on jealousy, we talk about money, because I suspect a lot of jealousy is involved with money somehow. But yeah, money was used to control people. So I think that people who have a lot of money are not very nice. So when I'm working on that story, and so success for me is much more along the lines of what you're talking about, Robbie, that you have freedom in your schedule, or schedule, as I might say. But I sent you an email, didn't I, over the weekend, and I said in it, I now think schedule when I'm typing it, which is funny. And I have more time. I get to choose more the hours that I want to work. So and I can be flexible with that. And the freedom that comes with that flexibility has enabled me to be at home much more as my children are growing up, to not be sitting at a desk 12 hours a day, and to have more of the sort of life that I want. And that is definitely success to me. And I no longer look at other people like who work flexibly, or who are working in a way that they want, and wish that was me.
Because it's you.
Because it is me.
Yeah. You've made that for yourself. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, so much comes up when you start talking about money. But something related to jealousy popped in my head where I was on the other side of it.
Oh.
Which is, it was at a workplace, and what details to give that are important? Just I'd been hired for a contract at first, and then they were going to be hiring me on. They liked what I did. They're going to be hiring me on full time. So one of the current full time people was talking to me about her salary, and I was like, that is very low. And she agreed. And so I went and asked for what I thought was fair for the job, and I got it. And she was furious with me. And I thought, you're mad at the wrong person. And me getting this doesn't take away from you. And I agree that your boss should be paying you this amount as well. And now that I am doing the job at this amount, it actually gives you some leverage to say, well, the job is this amount, like it can help you.
Yeah.
But I thought, I mean, looking back, it was painful at the time because I thought, well, I didn't do anything to you. Like, why can't you just celebrate that I'm yay me? I went in there and asked for what I was worth. But I thought, as we're talking about this topic, I thought, oh, this happens all the time. This is exactly how jealousy comes out, right? We just aim it at the wrong person. And I think what I was remembering is it's painful to be at the other end of that. So not only are we, when we're sending out those jabs, we're really kind of deflecting ourselves from what's really going on. Like we're being the victim versus looking at what do I really want. But it's also sending kind of a painful jab out there towards somebody else.
Yeah. So not only are we not getting what we want, the person who should be held accountable, person, thing, organization who should be held accountable is not being held accountable. And also we can be bringing somebody else into it and sort of making it painful for them too.
Yeah.
But it is easier to do that than it is to
gosh.
look inside. I mean, nobody really wants, until you get in the habit of looking inside, which we're well in that habit now. And I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying I do it always quickly enough, but I am much better now at going, oh, hang on a minute, what is going on here, and looking inside. But nobody really wants, nobody goes, I think we all have to get ourselves in quite a mess before we're prepared to do that, or somebody says to do that, or we go to a therapist who says this is what you should do, or you go to a coach who says, look, we need to look at what's going on inside. Because I hear all this, and I hear about all this painful stuff, but you're sending it all out rather than turning it inside.
Yeah.
And while we're sending it all out, we are staying in that victim that you talked about.
That's 100% right.
Because victims do not look inside.
No, they don't.
You stay in that victim energy looking out.
Yeah. And I think about too the amount of energy, because it does take energy to stay there too. To keep telling yourself that story, to keep getting pissed about. And let me just say, I think she was rightfully upset. Yes. She was being underpaid for the job. So I don't disagree with that at all. Rightfully upset. But then it's just a matter of, well, now what are you going to do with that? Because getting mad at me for getting paid well for the job isn't going to fix anything for you,
Yeah. I remember when I was still a lawyer, and I joined a firm along 20 odd years ago now, and I'd been there a little while, and then I realized I was getting really annoyed that there was somebody else there who was at a higher level than me. And I was like, hang on a minute, I'm as good as they are, because work was, I had a problem in the rest of my life and thought I was pretty worthless, but at work I knew that I was good at what I did, and I was like, hang on a minute, I'm every bit as good as them. And I realized that meant that I wanted it. So I went for the promotion, not because actually I never really had aspirations to get to the top. I kind of knew, weirdly, given that I didn't really have much self-knowledge, I sort of knew that getting to the top was going to be really painful for me. I always used to say I wasn't prepared to sell my soul to the devil, because that's what it felt like I had to do. I wasn't prepared to do that, because actually I knew that's not really what I wanted. But as opposed to this scenario I'm just talking about now, where I wanted the next level up, which was not the top, but the next level up, because I'm doing that job, I'm every bit as good as them. I actually want that. And it was driven by, I'm not quite sure what it was driven by. I mean, there was a certain amount of jealousy, and that's what we're talking about, but a certain amount of, I don't know, I deserve it. I don't know, quite whatever. I'm not quite sure what word I would put behind that language. And I did go for it, and I did get it, actually. But that was very much on the back of feeling that they've got that, and I want it too.
It's interesting because, like, that feeling, like what you just said, like they want that and I want it too. It seems to me that that's just information, and that it's not good or bad, right? It's just information. And then how we use that can be helpful to us or hurtful to us.
Yeah.
Because again, like, knowing what we want is a really good first step to getting it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, because actually I didn't take it out on her. I suppose I used it to it's interesting, isn't it? And I always talk about information. If in doubt, gather information. If you're not sure what decision to make, gather information. I don't know, if you're not sure how you feel about something, gather information. And maybe that is what I was doing, and maybe that's not necessarily pure jealousy like we're talking, but there was definitely some juice, as you would call it, behind my decision to go for that promotion. And it wasn't because I wanted it for the sake of being promoted. I wanted it because she had it, and I thought I deserved it too. So yeah, it's just it's interesting. And I don't feel jealous very often these days.
Wow.
Do you?
It's a really great question. I haven't been asking myself. So let me check in. I don't, it doesn't occur to me that I am. I mean, I talked about in building my business that has come up.
Yes. Well, that helped you redefine your idea of success.
100%. Like, it's really, like, I feel like we started talking about at the beginning, like, these are flags.
Yes.
So I am much more practiced about going within on something like this. If I'm like, ooh, I would like that. Or like, I'm trying to think of, how does jealousy come up for me these days? I would say it still comes up when I feel like someone has an easier life than me. Never easy. So that's interesting. Yeah, that's still there. So I'm still looking for ease. Ease is one of my top things. Like, freedom and ease are right at the top for me around how I want to experience life.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, I have so much ease in my life. So I'm like, I really created a lot of that for myself. And it's still like something I want more and more and more of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can't get enough of. It's funny, when you were thinking then about where it comes up for you, a lot of it for me comes up around time. So I feel like I don't have enough time a lot of the time. I I do end up going from one thing to the next quite often, more than I would like to. Although I do thrive on it a little bit. There's a very fine line for me between having a lot to do and it being fun to having too much and feeling overwhelmed. There's a very small difference between those two. And a lot of it can depend on, you know, how well I've slept and have I eaten well and all those things. That can just be enough to switch me from one to the other. But jealousy will come up a lot for me, especially with my husband at home. When he comes home from work, sits down, puts the telly on and has a cup of tea, and I come home from work, if I've been out in the office all day and come home at the same time, and I don't know, sorting the washing out, sorting the tea out, and I know that's me, that's me choosing to come in and do it straight away. And I'm not saying he won't do it. He is just prioritizing his little bit of rest when he comes home. And there's very much information in there for me, isn't there, that I probably would like to prioritize my rest when I need it. And that's part of my learning, really, to recognize that more, because I absolutely do not want to burn out again. So
no, we don't want that for you. That was a really great example, Philippa, because it would be easy to just pile on your husband and say, well, he's doing something wrong. But I mean, really, right? It's like, okay. But what you said was, and it still might be that you guys have a negotiation and you come to an arrangement where he's doing something different. But the thing is that what you said was, it was causing you to look inward and say, like, I'm having a reaction because what I'm wanting is more of that. I want to be able to rest. I want to be able to come and have a break. And that's the bit that we're talking about. Like, that's the part that can be super useful information to us, that looking in right there.
And I say that now, sitting here talking to you, but I don't want anybody to think that actually that's what I managed to do in the moment, because in the moment I was slamming around and going, well, it must be nice to be able to go in and sit down. And I wish I could sit down and watch the telly. I mean, I didn't do it with quite so much venom as I have been known to do in the past. So I think that's a little bit of progress. And I didn't get super mad. Like yes, I was sort of a bit mad in the moment, but you know that, like, where you get super mad and it just lasts and it sits with you and you chew it over and over and over. That didn't happen. So it was much more surface level. Yes, it's all progress, but in the moment, it wasn't all that pretty. But I get it. I am definitely no saint.
We've never professed to be, right? We're humans living a very human life, doing our best.
We are learning as we go.
Yep. Still learning as we go.
Because that's what we do all the time. Yeah. So I I'm not sure I've got a huge amount more to say on this topic. It was really, as we've described, about, I don't know, encouraging listeners to use those feelings of jealousy as information and look in, what is it you want and how can you build more of that into your life?
100%.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I think the only little niggling thought I have is, I've used the word victim a couple of times in here, and I want to put kind of a disclaimer on there, but I'm trying to figure out how I want to word it, which is victim thinking is different from being victimized. So I'm not trying, if someone has been victimized, that's a very real thing. Definitely not trying to sugarcoat that and think your way out of that. Not at all trying to minimize it in any way. I think I'm trying to talk about victim thinking, which is a whole different ballgame.
Yes, I like that. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
I
think that's it.
So that's it, I think, for today. There are our musings on jealousy and our little role play at the beginning, which,
oh no.
Robbie played along with me, so thank you for playing with me.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate you for doing that.
And
that's it for today, and we'll be back next week with another, probably not another role play, but with another juicy episode.
And so with that, it's bye from me.
And it's bye from me. Thanks for listening to HSP Connection. If you've enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes. Also, we'd really appreciate it if you could rate the podcast and share it with anyone you think might be interested. It helps others find us. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, you can also leave us a review.
To get in touch with us, you can email us at hspconnectionpodcast@gmail.com. And we'd love to hear from you with your thoughts and comments on the episodes and any suggestions you have for future topics and guests.
We are both HSP coaches and speakers. And to find out more about Robbie, go to Robbie Lee, that's leigh.com.
And to find out more about Philippa, go to safeandsupported.co.uk. See you next time.